Penn's Landing. It is the site of shipping, trade, and commerce on the Delaware River. But how did it come to be the way it is today? Hello, my name is Nicholas Moore, and I'm going to be talking about Penn's Landing and how it became what it is from then to now. The story of Penn's Landing starts with a man named William Penn, who was born on October 24th, 1644. In 1681, Penn gained a large piece of land in America from the king to repay a family debt. Penn sailed for America on a ship, the Welcome, and went to Newcastle in 1682. However, Penn's official landing in Pennsylvania territory was in Chester, PA. Penn landed and was greeted by the Delaware Indians. Even though Penn was given the land by the king, he bought it from the Indians instead of forcefully taking it to sustain a friendly relationship. William Penn originally named the land New Wales, but then changed the name to Sylvania, which was Latin for woods or forests. The King of England at the time then changed it to Pennsylvania to name it after William Penn. William Penn also had control over the land which is known as New Jersey and Delaware. He called an assembly and had representatives to make the separate colonies of New Jersey and Delaware. William Penn then had this vision of Penn's Landing becoming a recreational park, which did not end up happening until 300 years later. Over the years, Pennsylvania grew tremendously, especially with Philadelphia. However, the main reason that it was successful was due to the location. Philadelphia was surrounded by two rivers, the Schuylkill River to the west and the Delaware River to the east and the south. Philadelphia had two rivers that allowed shipping of goods and materials, mainly on the Delaware River. Philadelphia was a city that was inland, but was easily accessible due to the Delaware River, which was accessed through the Delaware Bay between Delaware and New Jersey. So you may be asking, why am I telling you this, and what does it have to do with Penn's Landing? This is how Penn's Landing came to be, and why we even have a Penn's Landing in the first place. Back long ago, the Delaware River, as well as Penn's Landing, was not what it was today. It was a small shipping port where ships would dock with people, materials, supplies, and many other things to settle in the New World. Though William Penn landed in Chester, the dock along the Delaware in Philadelphia was given the name Penn's Landing due to the fact that this was where most of the ships came to dock in the new land for the first time. Over time, Penn's Landing grew and became a much larger place of trade, shipping, and commerce. During the Revolutionary War, Penn's Landing served as the main port for British ships to drop off troops and supplies until Philadelphia was given back to the Americans. What started out as a little dock had evolved into a major site of shipping and transportation along the Delaware River. As more ships come to Penn's Landing, the more the port grew. However, besides shipping, there were several points at Penn's Landing where ferries would transport people between Philadelphia and Camden in New Jersey. People had also lived nearby the river so that they could easily take their goods down to the river to set up shops or trade, as well as ship them away. At the time, Penn's Landing was the only way of transportation due to the fact that all they had was ships instead of cars, trains, and airplanes. Eventually, it came to the point where shipping and trade could be in jeopardy due to the fact that cars and trains were having much bigger appearances, meaning that ships and boats would no longer be used. The world was getting more advanced in both technology and transportation, but the advance in transportation meant that using ships at Penn's Landing could possibly be a thing of the past. However, as of today, that did not happen, for shipping was not stopped entirely, and is still in use today. It's just the fact that ships would no longer be a main source of transportation anymore. Trains and cars were being built at the time and would eventually replace the use of ships and boats. In 1926, the Ben Franklin Bridge was built across the Delaware River. This allowed cars and trains to travel across the Delaware River. Because of this, river ferries were no longer used and were eventually decommissioned and scrapped. This also had an effect on shipping. Like I said, because of the construction of bridges and highways, Boats were not needed, seeing how trains and cars could easily get around the country due to these. It wasn't until the creation of the airplane that shipping was almost entirely stopped. Despite this, though, ships and boats still moved up and down the river daily, transporting goods and materials. Eventually, most of Penn's Landing was changed from a shipping port to a tourist attraction for Philadelphia. Though some of it was used for shipping, they planned to add some things to Penn's Landing to make it nicer. One of the things that they did was constructing a marina to dock old and historical ships in order to protect them. The city of Philadelphia eventually made the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation. They did this because when William Penn died, ownership of Penn's Landing was given to Stephen Girard. That was until he passed away too. Eventually, the city formed a group of people and corporations who would help to take care of Penn's Landing. This eventually led to the form of the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation, or for short, the DRWC. The main goal of the DRWC was to bring people back to Penn's Landing so that it was not a desolate port anymore. Most people would not come here anymore due to the fact that shipping had almost completely stopped and was becoming a thing of the past. No one would go there to sell or trade. This led to the DRWC to transform Penn's Landing from a desolate port to a tourist attraction. This allowed the city to raise money to take care of the site. This had also offered an opportunity to actually make William's Penn's dream come true. Because, like I said, when he first landed in Philadelphia, he hoped to make the land along the river a park. The city of Philadelphia decided to make part of Penn's Landing a park that people could visit to just relax or enjoy. This also led to more things being involved to add a wide variety of things to do while people visited to get them to stay or come back or even bring more people. This kept the Penn's Landing from going completely desolate. The first thing that they added was the Independent Seaport Museum. The Independent Seaport Museum is a museum that focused on the maritime history of Penn's Landing, such as the slave trade, disasters on the Delaware, patriots and pirates, importing and exporting goods, deep sea exploring, shipbuilding, and so much more. The museum offered a wide variety of things for people to look at and experience. They even held events such as a boat race competition and an exhibit featuring different style ships that a group of people had constructed out of Lego bricks. The museum had also had the responsibility of taking care of two ships, the Olympia, a battleship that was the flagship of the American Navy during the Spanish-American War, and the Vicuna, a submarine that served in the Pacific Fleet during World War II. The Olympia is known as the oldest steel warship afloat and is also, like I said, the flagship of the American Navy during the Battle of Manila Bay. The ship was decommissioned and was put under the protection of the museum and named a national landmark to avoid being scrapped or sunk. The Vicuna was a Vallejo-class submarine that served in the Pacific Fleet during World War II, after it was reassigned to the Atlantic Fleet during the Cold War to scout for Russian nuclear submarines. It was eventually decommissioned and placed in the care of the museum and both are docked in the marina. Next to the ships is the Spruce Street Harbor Park. This park has hammocks tied to trees that you can relax in. It also features old shipping crates that were transformed into food stands or mini arcades. In the marina, there are barges that are put together to make a mini beach. This has also been ranked one of the best urban beaches. Along with that, you can also rent a boat in the marina. You can either take a rowboat, a paddle boat, or a kayak. Penn's Landing is also the dock for the Gazella, a fishing vessel that takes trips to ports around the world for festivals or tours of the ship itself. There is also the Great Plaza right next to it. The Great Plaza is a tiered amphitheater that overlooks the Delaware River. Every year, there are musical festivals that are held there where many different groups perform to express their culture or to share the music of their country with other people. Around the plaza are informative markers that talk about Philadelphia, the Delaware River, and the history behind it. Finally, there are inscribed stones on the ground that celebrate Philadelphia as a city of firsts. Most recently added was the Blue Cross River Ring. It is an ice skating ring that is open during the winter. The ring features an arcade, a food plaza, a lounge, and fire pits that people can sit by to warm up after they are done skating. South of the rink, also docked in the marina, is the Mashulu. The Mashulu was a ship that would take immigrants from Europe to America. It was transformed into a bar and restaurant on the water. It has really good food, it's just that it's really expensive. Finally, the last part of Penn's Landing is the Spirit of Philadelphia. The Spirit of Philadelphia is a yacht that offers cruises on the Delaware River to give you a new experience of Philadelphia from the water. You are even able, for a certain amount of time, to reserve a tour on the Freedom Elite, the Spirit of Philadelphia's sister ship. This allows you to take a tour privately with only friends and family. Today, Penn's Landing is a major attraction with millions of visitors every year. It represents the best that Philadelphia has to offer and is a major place for people of all cultures to experience. I recommend that if you ever have the time, that you visit Penn's Landing just for a day to experience what is it like in person and enjoy what there is to do. Thank you.